Yeah. 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 I can't believe YouTube just sends me a message right now on my screen after I go live. That I have to read. Oh, you can now have moderators help your channel while you're live. I don't care about that. It is Jeremy, Jets Cast here. Been away for a while. Couldn't stay away. Not through this. Are we really doing this, Jeff Fence? So here we go on Twitter again. Rumors, that's my fingers doing the quote. The other one's holding the phone. Sorry, I can't do both. Rumors or sources, right? That's our favorite word, sources. The clickbait word of all time. The word of all frauds, right? Sources. That's when nothing. I got nothing. I got no news, and I need to pretend that I do. So I'm going to make up and invent this word sources and say that the Jets are doing something that they're not doing, right? So sources, remember, could be a janitor in a building. It could be somebody's mother, you know, who's looked at their son and said, the Jets are going to trade for Devontae Adams. They're talking to the Raiders right now. I can sense it. And technically, by definition, that person could just say, my mom is pretty good at anticipating things like that. And I think that that's a legitimate source. So now, but I want to protect their identity. So I'm just going to run out now and tell the Twitter world that sources say the Jets are talking to the Raiders about trading for Devontae Adams. Should we break down all the ways in which that is so stupid and you have to be so clueless to believe such nonsense? Now, look, anything can happen. There's, like between the start of the season and the trade deadline, when coming up on the trade deadline, that has nothing to do with today. Can the Raiders start the season 1-5 and their happy little locker room with their new coach that goes rah rah rah, win win win, you're the Raiders, be tough and mean? If that actually doesn't work this season, it seemed to work last season, but if it actually doesn't work and people are not happy, is it possible the Raiders dump a giant contract, giant player for the future and say, obviously, we have to go into a rebuild. We don't have the right quarterback right now. It doesn't make sense to hold on to Devontae Adams. Sure. Anything can happen before a trade deadline. We've seen it a million times. We've seen teams go from, we're going to be a competitor this year, to complete sell mode. I mean, like in baseball, we watched the Mets, a month ago we were saying, oh, the Mets are definitely in sell mode, like just rebuild, just get rid of Alonso, get rid of everybody. And then all of a sudden they started coming back, and now they're in the playoff contention. They are in a spot right now if the season ended to be in the wild card. So things change, right? So yes, situations can change during a season. So if the Raiders open up and they're horrible, and they're 1-4, 1-5, or 0-4, 0-5, whatever, if they're trash, if they're getting blown out, if it's clearly a joke and ridiculous, that their plan with their current quarterback situation with Minshew or whatever, O'Connell, whoever's going to start, if it just blows up in their face, is there a chance Adams gets very unhappy? Is there a chance the team then moves on, realizing this is going to be a real rebuild? It's going to take a little bit longer, and there's no reason to hold on to Adams' contract. Let's get some draft picks. All of that is possible. And yeah, if that was happening, then Jet fans would say, why not the Jets? He's friends with Rodgers. Sure. But this is not what the rumor is saying. This is not what sources are saying right now. What sources are saying is that the Jets are currently in talks to trade for Devontae Adams. People, respected people, I thought, are on Twitter. These are real names of content providers. It's disgusting. And they're printing pretend rosters that show Adams as a Jet. And just clickbait and just nonsense. No scruples, no morals, no ethics. No doing the right thing. Otherwise, just stupid. Let's talk about all the reasons why it's stupid. If you took even a moment to look at what's going on right now in Vegas with the Raiders, that team at this moment is playing to win. And I don't mean like every team says, oh, we're playing to win. No, they're excited to win. They believe in their roster. They have a head coach who has fired up the fan base and fired up the organization to the point where they believe they're going to the playoffs. They believe their defense is very good. They believe that Minshew or O'Connell, some like the rookie from last year, some like Minshew, but they believe that that quarterback is good. Their quarterback room is good enough with the weapons they have. They believe this. I live in Sacramento. I talk to the Raider fans. They believe they're competing. They don't consider their team in rebuild mode. They are not saying, "Oh, my team's in rebuild. We're in rebuild mode. Why aren't we trading Adams?" Um, they are not. The organization is not. Devontae Adams campaigns for this head coach, and the Raiders hired him from interim coach to the head coach. He is not unhappy there. He's not demanding a trade. He does not want one, and the Raiders are not in sell mode. They're not. Then okay, so that's one thing. I mean, how often does a team that's planning to go to the playoffs just randomly say, "Let's trade our best player"? Like, how often do you see that happen? We're in play. We believe we're going to make the playoffs. We believe we're going in the right direction. We got this coach, this good coach that we like. Let's trade our best weapon. How often do you see that happening? That's not what happens. Teams do that. Like when we traded Jamal Adams, teams do that when they're going into rebuild mode, when they're stripping the roster, when they're going for draft picks and clearing out money. Okay? That's the first thing. Someone says, "Why am I streaming?" Why? That's like what are you talking about? Why are you streaming? I'm streaming to put to end a stupid rumor. Why am I streaming? Why is there always an asshole every time I go live? Can I block him from? Yeah, there we go. We got rid of this asshole. Okay, yeah. Why are you streaming, Dad? That's you see, that's somebody who's offended because this guy James is stupid and believes anything he's told on Twitter. I'm streaming because somebody's got to speak the truth, right? And I know most of you guys, my viewers, like my, that are watching me, know that the you know the reality. Like you know and you live in reality. People are saying, why am I streaming? It's in the title, isn't it? Didn't I create a title? I'm streaming because there's rumors that people are validating and saying sources, and people are claiming on Twitter that the Jets are trying to trade for Devontae Adams right now. And there are Jets content providers putting in rosters of the Jets saying, how great would this roster be? This would be great. And they're listing Devontae Adams as a Jet. And I'm streaming to say this nonsense has got to stop. Okay? The nonsense has got to stop. Oh, just kidding. The so let's I talked all about the reasons why the Raiders are not trading Devontae Adams. Let's talk about why the Jets are not trading for Devontae Adams. Now look, we'll talk about the if the Raiders start the season 1-5 and trade deadline and all those kind of things. But nobody asked the question, if we were trading Devontae Adams, what are we giving? Like, what are we giving in draft capital? Now, I am not, if it was possible, if the Raiders were shopping him, I am not saying don't pick up the phone. I'm not saying don't try to find a way. Just like everybody else, I could play the John Madden football fantasy of building a team. I could play the fantasy of saying Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Mike Williams. Like I could play that game. I could play that fantasy along with everybody else. Yeah, but let's be realistic. Let's be a little bit realistic now. What would we have to give up though? Like what would other teams, what would the Raiders expect in return? Think about it. If they were getting rid of him, they would be getting rid of him because he's not unhappy. You have a happy player who's happy where he is, and the Raiders would be saying, even though you're happy, even though you're our best player, we're just trading you away. Right? What would the intention be for the New York Jets if they were doing? I mean, for the Raiders if they were doing that, it would be to get a haul, like 3 number 1 picks, maybe a star player, Think about what they would want. Would you really give up our next 3 years? Would you really say screw the future completely? Because don't forget, it would not only be 3 first round picks, where we would not have a first round pick for the next 3 years. That's not all it would be. You also have to understand that we'd have to pay Adams his money. Where is that coming from? Where do we have our salary cap set up in a way that we could pay a player $30 million a year? Now, people say there's restructuring, there's this and that. But again, I mean, I guess someone could argue it's worth just throwing away the future, having no future, no draft picks, money tied to the point where we can't retain our players later and we lose the whole core of the team, all for this year and next year, and just go in and gamble the entire thing. But I think there's got to be some responsibility for an organization to balance the future as well. And not say we're going to completely purposely blow up this entire rebuild, blow up this entire team, not be able to hold on to these great core players for one player. I'll debate that. If you say you disagree and that it's worth 3 picks and it's worth crushing the future, and I've waited long enough for a Jets Super Bowl, Davante Adams will get us there. Give everything away for the future. Screw 26 and beyond. Let's just make it about the next 2 seasons. Okay, we could have that debate. I guess it's fair enough. That's, everybody's entitled to their opinion. That's reasonable. That's living in the real world. That's realistic. That's something that can be talked about and debated. But what I will not debate is the nonsense that the Raiders and Jets are talking about this. Because for the Jets, what are they negotiating? What are they saying? Hey, we want to give away our first round picks, and we want to waste our time on the phone with you, even though you've given no indication Davante Adams is available. And of course, the Raiders would be telling their fans, hey, even though we've pumped you up this year and sold you lots of season tickets and lots of tickets and promoted this new coach that we have and this new dream and the organization, if you pay attention, I live in Sacramento, so I do. If you've been telling your fan base that you're in to win, and that you believe you're a playoff team, and then suddenly say, oh yeah, we got rid of our best player for future picks. What do you think the fan base is going to say to that? Gotta live in reality. Now, there might be some Raider fans who are smart enough to think this is not the team that's going to win us the Super Bowl. Trade Davante Adams, get us the trade package. Let's get ourselves a real quarterback. Let's get ourselves, tons of first-round picks and build more talent around our already, kind of young, talented team where there are signs of talent. A Raider fan could argue that, but that's not what the Raider organization is saying or doing. The Raider organization is not saying rebuild. They are saying win now. So it's just nonsense. Now, hopefully, the people hearing this know this, and and this isn't as big a thing. But I just can't believe how many people on Twitter are believing this nonsense. And believe me, the second you know something is a lie is when someone puts sources. Sources say. How come nobody who gives out information is okay with their name being associated with it? Think about it. When you look at the guys like Ian Rappaport and these other bigger names, they happily put their names next to things, right? Unless they're using the word sources and they're just spreading rumors. But usually they give the real information when they're talking to the teams. If the Jets and the Raiders were having this conversation, it would be the most top secret conversation in the world. It's a conversation, again, I'll say it again, that makes no sense. I would be willing to bet almost any amount of money or anything. I would be willing to gamble that it's not true. Now, people pick up the phone. It's just that who would pick up the phone first? The Raiders aren't picking up the phone because they're not looking to trade Davante. JD is going to pick up the phone and say, let me call the Raiders and see if they're lying to their fans and lying to the world and they really just want to dump Davante Adams. But also, what is JD calling with as far as trade stock? Like, what is he calling? Does he think that the Raiders are just going to give him Davante Adams for a second-round pick? So this is all nonsense. Davante Adams is not going to be a Jet. What we have to focus on is how good the Jets could be with a top three defense, which I believe we have, a rebuilt offensive line, ready to help Brees Hall show the league that he's the best running back in the NFL, if not number two. Garrett Wilson and hopefully Mike Williams getting healthy and Corley being able to make an impact, along with these other guys just filling a role because Aaron Rodgers makes everybody a little bit better. Conklin having a breakout year late in his career because for the first time in his life, he's in a great situation, or at least since he's played with Cousins. He's in a great situation on the Jets, the best he's been in years, as long as Aaron Rodgers stays healthy. And let's hope this combination of Aaron Rodgers staying healthy, this new built offensive line, this what should be an amazing running game, what should be a good, solid passing game with really good receivers for Aaron Rodgers, which is all he's ever needed, combined with a top three defense, is enough for us to compete and win a Super Bowl. Why can't we just be happy with that? Why can't we just stay within the reality of who our team is? We have a short one. Do I think that Devontae Adams would get us a Super Bowl? I think there's a very good chance. It would be hard to argue he wouldn't, but we all know that it goes more than just building a team on paper, John, right? We know that you actually have to go out there and win the games. You have to go out there and actually beat Kansas City, and Buffalo and whoever else, Baltimore. Obviously, we're a better football team if you stick Devontae Adams on it. But one thing that we haven't done is we haven't looked at what the cost would be, right? If you blink, I'll sub and like. Okay. I see you, teacher, Lorena. Um, obviously it's a crazy wide receiver room, right? So if you say to me, "Oh, but do you think we would be a competitor, or do you think we would win a Super Bowl if we had Devontae Adams?" Right? If I played along with his dream, or this fantasy, yeah. I mean, I think that we can win a Super Bowl now. So if you throw on a top three NFL wide receiver on top of what I already think is a roster that can compete for a Super Bowl, I'm going to say, yeah, there's a good chance we could win a Super Bowl. And if you're asking me if I would trade the future, like if I could look in the future and say, we will win the Super Bowl if we do this, but then we will suck. The team will fall apart and it'll be trash for another 5 or 6 years and we'll have to rebuild it all over again. Yes, I'll take that deal. Give me the Super Bowl. I've waited my whole life. I'm over 50 years old, never had a Super Bowl win. I'll sell my soul for that freaking Super Bowl, for that ring. Yes. The problem I have is if we do get Devontae, let's say either him or Garrett get hurt, we're a great team, we lose in the playoffs, second round, or even in the AFC Championship game, and then our window closes, and now because we're locked into all this money on this wide receiver position, right? Who do we lose? Who are we not going to be able to re-sign? Suddenly we have guys like Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson, and remember we have all these young stars that are going to need to get paid, that are going to need to be re-signed. So that's what starts to happen is the question becomes, you're really risking everything. Right now, the way things are, we have this young core, and if the focus is on how to maintain and keep these young players on our team, right, this is the other side of the argument, then if we keep Sauce, if we keep JJ, if we keep, we already have Quinn and Signs, but if we keep who am I forgetting? Brees Hall. If we keep all these young players, these that we drafted, if we hold this core together and keep drafting well, the philosophy is we could be a team like Baltimore or like Pittsburgh or like New England had been until they lost Brady and Belichick, and be a team that constantly keeps bringing in talent, constantly has a shot, and as a result wins some Super Bowls along the way. Or the philosophy can be go all in, throw that out, break it all up, and try to win it all now and take one shot at it. People could debate that all day. I'm not debating any of that. But it's got to be realistic. Now, if the season starts and the Raiders are 1-5, and Devontae is unhappy, there's bad press going on, he's unhappy. The whole locker room is unhappy. Vegas is a mess, which could happen. We see it happen to teams all the time. If their plan fails and the locker room falls apart and they're a mess, and you tell me that if you tell me the Jets are talking to the Raiders because the Raiders are talking to people about trading Devontae Adams, I'm not going to say you're lying. I'll say, okay, it's possible they're doing that. And I wonder if the Jets could get him. And I wonder how they'll do the salary cap. And if they brought him in and we're winning, let's say we're 4-2 or 5-1. So let's say we're moving along, doing really well, and suddenly we throw in Devontae Adams. If that was to happen, of course I'm going to go crazy like every other Jet fan. Of course I'm going to be flipping and doing somersaults, but I'm going to understand what that means. I'm probably not going to do somersaults. I'm pretty fat and I'm pretty old, but that's beside the point. I understand what that means. What that means if we went ahead and we made that move, it means we're saying 2026, 27, 28, screw you. Like we are abandoning this dream that we're going to be this competitive team every year. But okay, on the other side of that argument is, but we're taking a different strategy, kind of like the Tampa Bay strategy, what the Bucks did, and it worked for them. It's kind of what Denver did. We're going to not worry about the future, not worry about who the players we lose, and we're going to go for it and try to win it all now. Do I think that's possible? It's possible. I can't read JG's mind. I don't know who's in charge. The owner, Johnson, Woody Johnson might come over and say, "You get Devontae Adams and win me the Super Bowl this year, or die trying. I don't care about the future." It's possible. But that's a very different situation. That's a situation or a scenario we're making that the Raiders are 1-5, realizing that their plan failed, that that it's falling apart on them, and that they need to rebuild and saying, screw this, it didn't work. It's not going to work this way. We need to rebuild. Let's get rid of Devontae and do what the Jets did with Jamal Adams and what other teams have done. Let's get a slew of picks. Slew. I just made that up. A slew of picks. And let's rebuild this team. And if they do that, then okay, it's different in the middle of the season because you could take the team to hold on to a lot of their salary, and then we can get Devontae Adams. And if we traded a ton of picks, we could probably maybe not even have to pay him that much this year, so we could fit him into the cap. And everything is very different than if we were to trade for him now. It's a different conversation. It's a different scenario. But we're not up to that scenario yet because the Raiders might open the season 4-2, or whatever it is. They might be 4-2. They might be 3-3, or whatever. They might be believing they have a chance. As long as they believe that their plan is working, they want to be a playoff team. They're in to make the playoffs. If that doesn't fall apart on them, they're not trading their best player. Unless you called them with some ridiculous, unreasonable offer. Like, we'll give you 5 first-round picks over the next 5 years, and we'll give you Sauce Gardner. I don't know, some stupid scenario. But basically, they're not going to trade him. What is going on here? So can we? So I really think that it's like the real question, the real thing we should be talking about is what should we be doing to make this team better right now? What should our focus be right now? Obviously Hassan Reddick has got to be signed, right? Or not signed, but renegotiated. He obviously set out of camp. We don't know 100% he's going to sit out of mandatory training camp, like when actual camp starts. But there's a strong possibility because he didn't go to any of the mandatory practices and hasn't really made any contact with the team. There's a strong possibility that Hassan Reddick is going to sit out and he's going to hold out. That's what Jet fans need to focus on. Like, if we're going to focus on anything as fans and talk about things as fans and be in reality of what this team needs to do, we need to worry about Hassan Reddick because we basically traded JFM for nothing and we let Huff get away. So we lost 2 edges. McDonald, I believe in him, but he's coming off a rookie year where he barely played, so he's not completely proven. So right now, without Hassan Reddick, we're just JJ and McDonald, and that's not how our team is built. Our team is built in a rotation, and you know, Clemens is our number 3 guy coming in and playing 50% of 60% of snaps is not ideal. I don't think. I like him. He's a role player, but he's not a guy we could rely on, especially if one of our 2 top guys gets hurt, and now suddenly we're down to 1 real star edge. So yeah, we need to take care of Hassan Reddick, and I think that's just. Hopefully, it's just guarantee his contract. Hopefully, if they can't reach a deal, they'll say, "Okay, how about this? You don't want to sit out the year because if you sit out the year, you're just going to come back next year. And we still own the rights to you. I believe a player is not can't go into free agency after sitting out for a year because we'll still own the rights. Like even though if there's 1 year on the contract, if you sit out that year, it's like it's the next year you still have the rights to that player because otherwise players would have that leverage that I don't think they have, and I think that's their why they don't have that leverage. You sit out for the year, the team could just play hardball and say, okay, you're going to sit out another year. The point is he's going to be 31. He's not in a position where he wants to sit out the year. So there's definitely a way of settling with Hassan Reddick to at least say, hey, instead of it being incentive based, we'll guarantee you the 14, 15 million this year. Just get your ass in camp and play. Because are you going to turn down 14, 15 million dollars and just choose to stay at home and pay fines? And then next year come back and we could sit here and we could get on the negotiation table and start this whole thing all over again. Even if we set him free of that obligation, he would still be a guy who hadn't played in over a year, who's 31 years old. What kind of contract does he think he's going to get? I mean, okay, let's say somebody gives him 20 million for 2 years after he did that. Okay, you got yourself an. I guess you're happy with that contract because, I mean, is that worth sitting out a year and turning down 14, 15 million now and getting a contract anyway? Especially if you get another double-digit sack season for the Jets and we make the playoffs. What do you think your contract will look like next year? Is it worth sitting out a year? Is it worth doing that? Like, are you a guy who wants to win a Super Bowl? You're on a team that's built right now to compete for a Super Bowl. So, I mean, I feel like we have the leverage on this guy, on Hassan Reddick, and it's it doesn't make any sense for him to sit out. But the best scenario for us would be that we come to a deal with him that he's happy with. The best scenario is they announce that we've restructured Hassan Reddick's contract. Obviously, that would be best for both sides to have a happy Hassan Reddick. Right now, I don't trust him as a team player because I come from the old school thinking of players are supposed to love their team and love winning more than anything else. And he should have come in and he should have done everything the right way and continues to negotiate his contract while he was in camp. And he could have said, I want to be on restricted activities. And he could have been honest about it and said, I want to be on restricted activities because I don't have a guaranteed contract and I don't want to end up getting $0 this year. And all of that would have been understandable and accepted. Definitely by the fan base. Nobody would have argued him that. But man, show up to the clubhouse. Say that you want to be part of the team. You know? I mean, say hello to the fan base. Say hello to the coach. Say I'm here to win. Get us excited. Be a team guy. Start fitting in with people. Do what winners do. Do what leaders do. Don't sit there at home and go against the promise that you'd play under the current contract, which I don't know why that he agreed he would do. Why would you agree to play under a contract that guarantees you no money, where if you get hurt, you're done? Like, why did he agree to that in the first place? Because that's what they did before we made the trade. So it was ridiculous that we made that agree. It's ridiculous that was done. And I don't blame Hassan Reddick, Leroy, for wanting to get paid. I don't blame him at all. But I will blame the agent for unethical practice. Before we made that trade, they announced it right away. They said he will play for the Jets. That he's not going to demand the bag yet. Now, I 100% support negotiating with him and getting this guy paid. He's never been paid. He's a great player. He's one of the top edges. I want him to be paid. I want him here for the final 3 to 4 years of his career. It would be great to lock up Hassan Reddick. Just lock him up. It would be great. But if he's demanding 25, 30 million a year, guaranteed 3 years, he's a freaking asshole. Like, he's a loser. He's a liar because he said he wouldn't do that. So what they should do is just come to an understanding. Throw out this year's contract. Say we're going to take the contract for this year, the one that offers you no guarantees, and we're going to just pay you a flat 15 million or whatever it is. And why are we pretending that 15 million is he's never been paid? It's $15 million. So you out of your mind. You don't have $15 million. You wish you had $15 million. In your wettest dreams, you have $15 million. So can we stop pretending that $15 million is not paying him? That's the cost of the contract he agreed to and signed with the Eagles. He signed the deal. We'd be the nice guys. We're coming in and saying, "Hey, we don't want you to come in. We have to take the cap hit for 15 million anyway because it's an incentive-based contract. We can't. We have to leave room. Otherwise, we're in violation of the cap policy. So we have to recognize the 15 million either way." Right? So do that. Guarantee the kid his 15 million and say, here's another $15 million. Next year, when you're done, have a big year for us. You will have the biggest contract of your life, with whether us or somebody else. You will have the opportunity as a guy coming back as a 31-year-old who's a top 5 edge in the NFL, hopefully who just came off a Super Bowl win or a deep playoff, run with the Jets. And either the Jets or some other team will come along and give you your final contract, whatever it is, 23 million, 3 years, whatever it is. You're rich. You're rich. Mansions. You whatever you want. Cars. Or is it going to be, no, I need every single dollar. I have to be the highest paid. That's all I can. What does that matter when you're laying on your deathbed? What do you think it's going to affect his life, whether he makes 30 or 23? It's the biggest garbage nonsense in the world. How much money do you need? How much money do you need? Give me $3 million right now. You guys never see me again. I'll get myself a nice condo in Hawaii, live off the interest, and live the best life. Me and my wife will just disappear. So what are people talking about? I need to feed my family. Feed your family? It's $15 million. You've already made millions. You signed the contract. Now, I am saying this with the agreement that the Jets should do the right thing and guarantee him that money. And the Jets should be willing to talk to him while he's in camp. Come to camp and continue to talk and negotiate. I'm not against giving Hassan Reddick what he deserves. But come to camp and do it in good faith because you said you would. He said he would. So it's the lying. You can't justify a liar. You can't say it's okay to lie to people. It's unethical. He told the team before we gave up capital to trade for him that he would play. And it's like, it doesn't make sense because if a player signs a contract and underplays, and we've seen it happen a million times, like Le'Veon Bell. Did Le'Veon Bell give the money back? No. He didn't give the money back to us. Why is it that a contract is only valid if you play like shit or you play at the level of the contract? What is a contract? Do you understand what a contract is? A contract is a legal agreement. So if you're saying, I'm signing a 4-year contract, that's it. In every other profession, in every other place in our world. That's the purpose of a contract. If you say a player should be allowed to just say, I don't like the contract, I played better than it, I deserve more, and they could say that, and they could ask to renegotiate, fine. But then justify them not showing up to work and not honoring the contract, then you have no honor. Because a contract is your word, but it's also legal. It means you have no character. You're not a good human being. You're a liar. You're a cheat. You signed a contract. That's everything. If you paid someone to fix your house, and then they did a great job, and they said, you know what, I'm worth more. I did a great job fixing your house. So I'm not going to give you this final piece that you need to have your house. I'm going to keep this final piece that's going to keep a hole in your roof until you pay me even more. That person goes to jail. He's a criminal if he did that to you. You wouldn't be saying, well, he just wants to get paid what he's worth. No, he signed a contract. He signed a contract. Come to camp, continue to negotiate, but you signed a contract. Honor the contract that you signed. It's very simple. It's like so ridiculous to sit there and defend this behavior. To defend breaking contracts, not being ethical, being a liar. Why is that so okay in our American society? Why are people so okay with liars and cheats? It's a contract. You signed it. If we don't have contracts, if you're not going to honor them, why do we have contracts? Why? Why can't the team say you didn't play well enough? We're holding out on paying you. Why? We're not letting you come into camp. We're not going to pay you. Why can't the team do that? Why can't the team do that? It doesn't make any sense. Why is the player allowed to break the contract but not the team? I mean, of course the team is allowed to cut your butt. If the contract says they can cut you, they can cut you. If it's non-guaranteed money, they can cut you. If it's guaranteed money, they can cut you and still have to pay you because it's guaranteed money. It's the contract. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that the team could cut you or not cut you. It doesn't freaking matter. It's a contract. You know what a contract is. It's agreement. You are wrong if you're breaking your contract. If somebody broke a contract with you, you'd take them to court and you'd be angry. It's no different here. If you sign a contract, why can't the team just choose not to pay players? Why can't we just choose to say to a player, you didn't play up to your contract, we're not paying you? Why don't they get the same? Why can't they do it? Why don't they get to say you're not worth it? You misled us. Because they signed a contract. There's no argument here. Your argument is that lying is okay. Being a thief, being a cheat is okay. It's okay to be a cheat. It's okay to be a liar. It's okay to sign a contract and break a contract. That's what cheats do. That's what frauds do. That's what the worst people in the world do. The most disgusting people in the world have no honor. They're liars and cheats, and they think about themselves. Look, nobody is saying he can't say, I want a new contract. Nobody is saying he shouldn't come in and say, look, I signed a 4-year deal 4 years ago. I outplayed it. I at least deserve the respect of this year, this contract is shit for me. If I tear my Achilles, I'm done, and I'm not going to ever make another penny. So rewrite this and guarantee this. For him to ask that and say that, it's fine. Nobody's complaining. But to not show up to camp, that's a low life. That's a low life. And in this country, we're teaching that. We're teaching people it's okay to be a low life. It's okay to break laws and cheat and make excuses and say, it's okay if I cheat and steal from this store because I don't like the world. I don't like the country, so I get to cheat and steal from someone else. No, you don't get to. You don't get to be a thief. You don't get to break contracts. You don't do that. The society is built on integrity. The system, the financial system, falls apart when that is broken. Remember what happened in 2008 with the real estate crash? That was because the banks and those freaking people who run them had no integrity. And that's when shit gets ugly and falls apart. The way things work is when contracts are honored, when there's integrity, when there's ethics. This guy came to us and said, they spoke to his agent before they made the trade, and he said he will play. They said, we will try to negotiate a new contract, but in the meantime, he will play. That's what they announced when the deal was made. Not making this up. And then he changed his mind. I decided that I know my worth now. Well, bullshit. We already gave up shit for you. You already told us that you would play. Now you're going to sit there and say, oh, I think I can hold this team hostage? Look, it sucks. It moves the needle in the wrong direction for us. He's a great player, and I would love to have him. But no. Like, okay, let's call his bluff. Okay, he knows his worth. He's allowed to sit out. Yeah, we're also allowed to say, fuck you. We're not doing shit for you. We have you. We own you. We have the contract on you. You're not allowed to play for another team. You're not allowed. You have to sit there, and if you don't want to show up to camp, we'll fine you every day because that's what the contract says we can do. And we're going to fine you money every day. So not only are you not going to get your money, you're going to pay us money to sit your ass at home. And guess what? What do you think your worth is going to be after you've missed an entire year of football? What do you think your worth is going to be when you come back? And guess what? You're not a free agent. Everyone thinks, oh, he just has to sit out the year and he's a free agent. It's not true. When you violate your contract in the NFL, the team still owns you. Meaning the year of his contract is owed to us next year. It carries over to the next year. That's why Barry Sanders couldn't retire. I mean, had to retire and he couldn't get out of Detroit and play for another team because the team didn't have to. Back then, there was no free agency. Every year, they had rights over you, whether you sat out or not. There was never a way to get free. That's called a contract. You're stuck and obligated to stay to your contract. Unless the Jets break the contract, your obligation is to stay on the contract. That's your obligation. Are we talking? Don't talk politics, guys. Please, no politics in the chat if you can help it. We're here to talk about the Jets. Not, I don't want to start arguing over politics. But it's so easy and it's so non-argumentable. Like there's no argument. They sat down. He took the first 3 years' money of the contract. He took the money. He didn't say he signed a contract and for 3 years he took the money. And now in the fourth year of the contract, he's saying, ooh, the way we structured this contract, I got most of my money. And there's not a lot of money left in the contract that I signed. So I've decided I want a new contract now. And I'm not going to honor the full contract. Well, a team has the right to say, and it's fine for him to say, I want a new one. And it's fine for a team to decide, we're going to give you a new one because we want you to be happy. That's fine. So hopefully the Jets are negotiating and saying, hey, yeah, you're right. The contract kind of looks shitty now for you. We're going to negotiate something and try to help you out. Like, all that's good. There's nothing wrong with any of that. But do it in good faith. Show up and do your job, do what you're supposed to do, and renegotiate your contract. Fine. And if you can't come to terms, you have to freaking compromise. And you have to say, okay, then guarantee me my money, something. You have to be able to do. I mean, it's just, it's so obvious it shouldn't be an argument. And I want the guy to get paid. He's had 4 years of double-digit sacks. I want the guy to get paid. I do, as a fan. I would love it. Give him his contract, make him a freaking diehard Jet. Now I don't really trust him, though, because I don't know if the guy has any scruples. Like, you want leaders. You want people with values. You want people who want to win. You want people who want to be part of the team. It doesn't feel like that's who he is. He feels like just a greedy guy who's sitting there angry and mad. Angry and mad and unappreciative that he's already made millions of dollars to play a game. I'm so sick and tired of hearing how the players, the owners are greedy, the owners risked everything. The owners pay $500 million, $600 million, $1 billion for these teams. Now they're $2 billion, $3 billion for these teams. They have all the risk. That's what capitalism is. That's what America is. If you started a business and became rich, how would you feel if the employees started complaining that you were rich? Those employees didn't risk everything to start a business, did they? That's the way the world works. If you want to be very, very rich, you have to take risk. I've made decisions where it's made. I knew I'm not going to ever be rich. So I'm not going to complain that somebody else made a decision that can get them rich, who risked everything. I played it safe. Some people decide to risk everything to get rich. That's their dream. And that's fine. The owners owe us nothing. They owe us no explanation. They've done nothing wrong. They're allowed to be billionaire owners unless they've done something wrong. And that's proven in a court of law. But as far as we know, the NFL owners that are in right now, whatever. I mean, based on the legal system and everything, they are who they are, and they sign contracts. There's a players' union, and every 5 or 6 years, they have a big negotiation, and they have a big contract talk about players' rights and players' union, and so all of that is already done. That's why this is so upsetting to me. because there shouldn't be these contract debates because they come to agreements. The union agrees. So if Hassan Reddick wants to honor his players union, he will honor his contract because that's what they agreed to. So and it's just, man, why is this so hard? Why can't they just compromise? Give the guy 15 million guaranteed, unless you want to shore up his future. Like, he should definitely accept that offer. Oh, you're going to tear up a contract that I'm stuck under, and you're going to, instead of making an incentive based contract, guarantee me $15 million right now, no matter what happens to me? Thank you very much. I will now play out this year. And by the way, you're going to have to pay me. I'm going to punish you for not signing me long term because I'm going to have a great year and I'm going to go to the highest bidder. Fine. You're right, Hassan Reddick. We deserve it. Or the other scenario is the Jets say, we believe in you and we're going to throw out this beautiful contract that's so friendly for us for the year, and we're going to pay you like you deserve to be paid, and we're going to lock you into this organization for the next 3 to 4 years, and you're going to finish your career as a Jet, and that's fine too. That's fine too. But what we can't have, and I'll just sum up this thought: what we can't have is him sitting out and this distraction, and this is what screws up our year because we've had enough shit. So we cannot have this issue. And at the end of the day, shame on JD because he got us into this mess. We could very easily still have JFM on the team. We could have signed Huff and been bringing it back with the best defensive line in the NFL. He chose this. So as mad as I'll be at Reddick if he doesn't sign or is not willing to, like, in good faith negotiate, we don't know. We don't know what they're saying or doing. I'll be just as mad at JD for the stupidity of trusting an agent's word and trading for a player that basically it was known was unhappy with his contract and trusted on somebody's word the wrong thing. Some people are asking where I am. I am in North Carolina. The money is not guaranteed. It's incentive based. It's stupid that the Jets don't guarantee it though, because you have to have that. You have to hold the cap space for it anyway. And I think if you don't give it, then you get it for next year or some weird rule like that. But it's stupid. It's stupid. I mean, like, they should guarantee him the money. I have no question, because at least if they guarantee him the money, then at least you have something to negotiate. The problem is I think if you guarantee him the money, that's considered a restructure, and then you're not allowed to talk to him, and you're not allowed to change the contract for a full year. So the problem with it is it has to be the final decision. Like, if they guarantee the money, that's it. You're playing for 15 million, and that might be the problem. There's no way to say, hey, we'll guarantee you the money and still negotiate with you. So you're guaranteed the money, it's safe. Come to camp, play. If you get injured for the year, you get your 15 million, and we'll continue to negotiate and find the contract for you. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to do that because you can only restructure a contract once a year. So that sucks for us because we basically have to find whatever we sign with them has to be the agreement. So I think that at a minimum, our opening offer should be, we'll guarantee your contract. We'll guarantee it. It's no longer incentive based. What's up, Eric Craig? Good to see you, man. So at the least, we should do that. We should open up with, we'll guarantee your contract. And then Reddick's going to come back and his agent's going to come back and say, no, we want some more money. Well, what do you want? Do you want more this season? Well, we want a 4-year contract that makes him the highest paid defensive edge in the league, right? If they say that, then it's like, well, go F yourself. Because we were very clear when we made the trade that we're not going to do that. And there's no reason where we're going to do that now because so there has to be give and take. It's called a negotiation. It's called compromise. It's called meet in the middle. I think there's a chance they're going to do it because they're not panicking over it. Like, you don't see a lot of things in the paper. The Jets aren't making statements or playing any games. There's a chance that all of this is a waste of my breath and that JD is completely in control of this and Reddick is not worried about it. And there's a chance that sometime in the next 3 weeks, they're going to announce a long-term deal for Reddick and we'll all be happy. There's a very, very good chance that's going to happen. But I mean, there's nothing else for us to pick out though. There's nothing else for us to be unhappy about right now. because that's really the only problem in the team. That's the biggest issue on the team, is that one of our best defensive players who hasn't played it down for us is not in camp or hasn't shown up in camp. He's AWOL, and we don't know if he's showing up, and that's the biggest controversy we have right now as fans. And this whole video started, and I went live because for some reason our fan base decided to talk about this imaginary fantasy that the Jets are in trade talks for Devontae Adams, which is simply not true. We're not in trade talks for Devontae Adams. And when people say, "What's your proof of that?" My proof of that is because I'm just not a stupid person, and I just have critical thinking skills, and I know that there's absolutely no reason at all why the Raiders and Jets would be talking about trading Javante Adams, because it makes no sense. It doesn't make sense for either team right now. So if you have a fantasy about Davante Adams being a Jet, you have to hope that the Raiders lose every game and suck, and then before the trade line, decide we're clearing house. We're starting over again. That's how we're going to get. That's the only way a scenario, the scenario of Davante Adams coming into the Jets plays out. That's the only realistic scenario. There's no other scenario that makes sense. There's no. I mean, think about it. Think of how often you have a blockbuster trade like that. When does it happen in the beginning of training camp? And when does it happen to a player who is happy where he is, with a new coach who just took over for the team, that player, that star player, advocated for and fought to get hired? Like it's unprecedented. Like there's no trade is coming. I'm sorry to let everybody know that. I just like to keep things real. Wilson looking at 5 years, 150 million for Garrett Wilson. Sloss looking at 125. Yeah, all that looks real. JJ looking for 4 years, 75 million. Yeah, it's gonna be really hard to sign all those guys. Yeah, I agree, Leroy. There's some major work, and he's got to find a way to make it happen. Luckily, because they're fresh contracts, I think the way to do it, the way to make it happen, is extending before you get to the new contract, because extending will allow them to play around with giving guaranteed money up front and when you recognize it. And I think you get a little bit of a better deal when you do that. And the sooner the better, because every year the salaries are getting higher and worse. I think the Jets should, by this time next year, we should have extended all the guys from that draft: Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, Brees Hall, and JJ. I mean, I would love to keep all four, but if we're going to keep all four, I think the best strategy is next offseason should be the offseason of extensions. And we should do some this year if we can. Like, wouldn't it be great if week 4 we just randomly read Sauce Gardner extended, rework contract, Garrett Wilson, whoever it is. Like, we should get some done. I gotta lay down. We should get some done as soon as possible. Oh, guys, I'm on the East Coast. It's still early, 8 a.m. So yeah. So I agree. We should. I think we're in agreement there, Leroy. We should extend and pay whoever we can. Lock in this team. Identify the core of the team and lock it in. That's why I think it's so ridiculous that people are talking about Devontae Adams, because it doesn't fit into like what we really need to do. I mean, what we really need to do if we want to contend and continue. Because don't forget, if we keep JD, if we have a good year now, assuming and nobody gets fired, he's bringing in great talent year after year now. He's on a rhythm. He's on a roll. Okay? He's bringing in talent. Okay? I feel like we get better every year. I feel like we bring in real talent every year. What we need to do is lock up the core, and the main focus should be continuing every year to bring in great talent around that core of superstars. I want to be a team that retains its superstars. Sauce Gardner, Jermaine Johnson, Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall. The goal should be that the 4 of them are the core 4. That they should be the core of the team. That's the core that's going to keep us for the next 8 years a great relevant team. Having players like that. And then you add guys to that core like Tippmann, because he comes a year later, so hopefully we'll find a way to extend him. But we're playing with different years where we could push it down to a different year. And you look at each guy from each year, like who are the guys from like the next year up, right? So AVT is going to be a problem. How do you pay a guy like that? He might be the guy we're trying to extend. Like he might be the guy like in mid-season if he's healthy and he's dominant, we might try to sign him before his value goes up too high. Because right now, the health thing could be our friends, like the risk. Like you can't stay on the field, and that could be our way of getting him at a bargain. But then we're rolling the dice and taking a risk because we know he's been injury prone. But that's a player I totally forgot about, AVT, that we got to worry about. Man, we drafted him. JD got it right with him. He's so good. It's so unfair for us Jet fans that we get these great players and we don't even get to enjoy them. He gets hurt all the time. It's just so freaking agitating. It's just so annoying. So, yeah, I know if you have a great offensive line, but I do think that Brees Hall is special. Like I agree that the running back is the least important in the sense that if you have a great offensive line, great quarterback, there's one of the half a dozen, one half of another. I mean, there's so many running backs you could just throw in that are going to have success. But I don't think Brees Hall is just any other running back. I hope that he stays healthy and we get to enjoy how special he is, because I do think he's not at that level of just a good running back. To me, he's elite. I think the injury in playing for the Jets shitty team has really hidden this from a lot of the NFL. Not all of it. There's a lot of people that are very well aware of Brees Hall. But if you look at Brees Hall, even with a very below average offensive line when he's healthy, he's had games where you're like, can you imagine if we had any functionality at all as an offensive line? Like if our offensive line was capable of functioning at any level, how good this kid could be. I think that this year we're going to find out how good Brees Hall is. I mean, it's all knock on wood. I mean, we got to stay healthy. But if this roster stays healthy, I think the entire NFL is going to get a wake up call on Brees Hall. Like get ready, get ready, because Brees Hall, he's something very very different. You know, but yeah, if you're going to get rid of something, if you can't retain all the players, the position, it's true, Leroy. I mean, you could go into the third round of any draft and draft a running back, and and then you draft one in the fourth round, and we just drafted Braden Allen, and we just drafted the Davis, and one of them might turn out to be very good. So, yeah, I mean, if you have to like lose a negotiation or one has to get away, that's definitely the one that gets away. You know, we did once have a tight end. His name was Mickey Schuler. I mean, Dustin Keller wasn't bad, but Mickey Schuler. The Jets had a tight end once. I know it was years ago. It was probably before you were born. Um, you just said, don't say Schuler or Keller. And that's what I said. Well, it's true, man. 40 years ago, we had a tight end. We did. It was 40 years ago, but we had him. 40 years ago, we had a great tight end. He was a great man. Me and my friends used to go on the street, would play football, and we'd be catching the football. I'd be pretend I was Mickey Schuler. I mean, like we all dreamt that we were him. But no, we definitely look. I think I don't know why you're saying that. Like if you ever watched Mickey Schuler play, he was a great tight end. Um, or he definitely was enough. Like like he definitely was enough. I'm not saying he's great or comparing him to Kittle or Kelsey when I say this, by the way, but I feel like Jeremy Ruckert is not getting a fair chance. Every time that we've thrown the ball at him, he sucks it up like a vacuum and makes a good play. Every time I watch all 22 film and look at Jeremy Ruckert, when he has like come around like a swing block or something, a sweep block, when they sweep and stuff, he always gets his guy. He always lays his guy out. Like in almost every piece of film, I can't find bad tape on the kid, and I just don't understand why he's not getting an opportunity. But I think with the Ozuma guy done now and gone, I think Ruckert being our solid end our solid tight end too, with Conklin in a team that likes to run a 12 personnel, I think there's a chance we're finally going to get to see Jeremy Rucker get his opportunity. But and I'm not saying he's great, but I don't know how good or bad Jeremy Rucker could be because he has not been given a chance. All I know is he's done nothing bad. Um, well, I mean, it's a philosophy. It's not the tight end's fault whether they're running or catching. That's offensive scheme. So when you have an offensive a tight end, it's up to the team. You know, you could line that tight end up in the slot, which Conklin is completely capable of doing. When we got him, one of the things he did in Minnesota that people really liked was you could line him up in the slot, and he could be the safety. He could be the linebacker every time, and he could even be the safety. We just don't utilize them. I mean, we have had no quarterback, right? So one thing is we haven't had a quarterback. So we've had the worst quarterback overall play. So let's combine all of our quarterbacks. In the last 3 years or 2 years since we've gotten Conklin, or in the last few years of this team, we've had the worst quarterback in the NFL. So that kind of hurts a tight end's argument to be a good receiving tight end. This is the no excuse year. If Conklin doesn't put up good numbers, I mean, he might not put up 800, 900 because let's say he puts up 550 and Ruckert puts up 550 and you get a combined 1,100 yards out of him. Are you going to complain? I mean, it doesn't matter. I don't care if it's two guys carrying the load. Just give us the contribution. Just give us the production. It doesn't matter if it comes from one tight end or two tight ends combined. But I honestly think that, I mean, if you look at Aaron Rodgers and his tight ends that he had in Green Bay, he didn't need great tight ends. A lot of his great years, he had good ones. Conklin is as good as any tight end Green Bay had, if he's used right. We've seen it, and I think Ruckert is. But would I love a great tight end? This sounds so gay. Um, I of course we want superstars. Of course we want tight ends that get over 1,000 yards receiving and 15 touchdowns. Yeah, of course. But maybe we'll have to settle for 700 yards and 5 touchdowns. Okay. But I'm going to tell you what really, really matters to me more than anything is one thing, Leroy. If we win a Super Bowl, none of it matters to me. None of it matters. Nothing matters if we win a Super Bowl. I think we could all agree on that. If we win a Super Bowl, none of this discussion matters. It doesn't matter if we have a great tight end or a running back or who we sign. Just win me a Super Bowl, Jets. Win me a Super Bowl so I could put the year on my arm with my Jets Chaos logo and I can get the Lombardi trophy tattooed under it with the year that we won. And I'll add 1969. And then I'll add, every time we win after that, I'll add the year. That's the dream. The dream is right now I have Jets Chaos on my arm. I'll just show you guys if you've never seen it. So the dream is that under that, we win a Super Bowl. And I agreed with the artist, with the guy who did it for me. I wouldn't call that art. It was just words. But the guy who did it agreed and laughed at me because he said it'll never happen. But we win a Super Bowl. Put the Lombardi trophy under that logo. And I add 1969 and the year we win it. So let's say it's 2024. It would be 2025, right? And what is that true? Like we say the Jets were the 69 champions, right? 69 is the year we won the Super Bowl. Was it technically 1970 though? And which is the year that you count? Someone's going to have to help me with that. So if we win this season, if we win the Super Bowl, isn't it the 2025 Super Bowl? Like, which number do I put on my tattoo on my arm? Because it's a tattoo, I can't get it wrong. I'm going to have to make sure I got the right number. Okay. But I will add the 1969 too. So, it was the 68th season. Okay, cool. January. So it goes by the year of the Super Bowl. Okay, so this would be 25 if we win the Super Bowl. That means I would get the Lombardi Trophy with 1969 and 2025 on my arm. That's the dream, baby. That's the dream. Guys, I got to go. I'm losing my voice. I got to start my day. I'm in North Carolina, so go to Brooklyn Brothers Food Review. because I'm adding like a ton of really good, yummy, delicious reviews as I'm reviewing places. I went to this place called Acme Pizza. They have a couple of locations out here, Chicago style pizza. I just released a short, so if you look at Brooklyn Brothers Food Review, you will see. Oh no, I didn't release the short yet, but it's going to come out like today or tomorrow. So keep your eyes open for that, and take care, Jet fans. I'll try to come back uh, at some point real soon.